Good morning. It's 9 o'clock, and my name is Ross Keeling. I'm the regulatory law judge presiding over this hearing. Right now, we do not have a court reporter, so we will have to wait until our court reporter logs on to the WebEx presentation we have. We'll give them as long as it takes to get logged on. So stand by and we'll get started shortly, hopefully. Is counsel for Spire here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Judge, Commissioner Coleman is here.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
We haven't had contact with our court reporter yet. I'm going to wait 5 more minutes and then we'll begin recording the hearing and have it transcribed at a later date if there's no court reporter by 9:15. Let's bring this proceeding to order and go on the record. Good morning. Today is May 10th, 2023. The time is 9:15. The commission has set this time for an evidentiary hearing in the case captioned as Structural Glass Systems Incorporated complainant versus Spire, Missouri Incorporated, DBA Spire as respondent, file number GC 2023-0143. My name is Ross Keeling, and I'm the regulatory law judge presiding over this hearing. This hearing is taking place in the Public Service Commission hearing room, room 310 of Governor Office Building in Jefferson City, Missouri. In attendance, we have Commissioners, Chairman Roop and Commissioner Coleman. And first thing I want to do is have counsel for the parties make their entries of appearance. We'll start with Structural Glass Systems Incorporated.
Mark Meyer for Structural Glass Systems Incorporated.
Spire,
Good morning, Your Honor. Antonio Arias on behalf of Spire.
and the staff of the commission.
Ron Irving, Staff Counsel.
Well, good morning. Now, I'll ask everyone to silence all their cell phones and mobile devices. Please be aware that when your microphones are on, which is indicated by a green light on your microphone, and when they're off, there's no green light. Today's hearing is being recorded. We do not have a court reporter either on site or on our WebEx presentation. I apologize for the delay. I hope I didn't waste anybody's time. But this will be transcribed from this recording at a later date. Please be aware of that. And it's very important that when you speak into the microphone and make sure that everyone can hear you. So speak clearly and loudly, and hopefully we won't get any of the words misinterpreted in our transcription. Spell names or words that could be misinterpreted, and at least initially state what any acronyms stand for. Okay. I don't believe there are any pending motions. Are there any pending motions in this matter?
None from complainant.
None from Spire.
Okay, no other preliminary matters?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, we have an order of witnesses that was filed by the parties in their joint list of issues and witnesses. Is there going to be any variation from that?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, complainant will have one of the two witnesses. We have Cyril Raybeck. We do not have Brianna Corso.
Thank you, Counselor. So today we're going to handle exhibits. We're going to, if you have paper exhibits, you probably brought those. We're not going to have a court reporter to bring them to. If they're pre-numbered, you can bring them to me, but we will circulate those electronically through email after the hearing. Exhibits should be pre-marked and continue sequentially, of course. So with that, we will start with opening statements, and we will start with Structural Glass Systems.
Go to the podium.
Please do.
Your Honor, briefly, complainant Structural Glass Systems, Inc. Occupies a commercial space in Raytown, Missouri. It is a glass shop. Complainant moved into the glass shop in November of 2021 and started the gas service at that time. It is the complainant's position that the only fixture which they had using gas were two propane gas or two natural gas heaters. Those are the only things using Spire service. The bills which they received were consistent with bills that they had received at a larger facility which they formerly occupied. They had no notice of any increased or tremendous usage. And then several months later, in April of 22, they received a corrected bill alleging that they'd used $7,000 worth of natural gas as opposed to $300 to $400 per month. This error has been ascribed to a meter error that resulted from the installation of the meter in October of 21. Spire has indicated that they treated it as it was a 6-digit read that was reporting as 5, and that that structural glass systems had really used 10 times the gas that was being reported through the 5-digit read. However, the complainant's position is that that amount of gas usage is simply inconsistent with the fixtures in place within their facility. And we would submit that there's a lack of clarity from Spire about which digit was being erroneously reported. Is it to the left? In which case the usage remains the same as what they were previously billed for. It would be a 0. Or is it to the right? In which case they're using, Structural Glass Systems Inc. was using thousands of CCFs of gas per month. Further, the evidence will show that after this issue was corrected, Structural Glass Systems usage currently is back to what they had originally been billed for, about 80 to 100 CCFs per month. So with that, we would submit that the billing resulted from an error of Spire, and we're asking that Spire correct it or cease collecting on it. I wouldn't have anything else in terms of an opening.
Thank you, Counselor. Would counsel for Spire?
Good afternoon, Your Honor, Chairman, Commissioners. Spire's position is that it properly rebilled complainant for underbilled natural gas usage from the period of November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022. Complainant was underbilled for natural gas usage during this period due to an incorrect PTZ corrector configuration, which I know doesn't mean much to us now. Our witness, Spire's witness, James Risky, is here to testify and explain that issue. The incorrect PTZ corrector configuration caused complainant's natural gas meter to register 6 digits of usage properly, 6 digits of usage, but only 5 digits of usage were transmitted to Spire's billing system. Spire identified the issue, diagnosed the cause, and implemented a plan to address this underbilling. Spire has inspected the natural gas meter and found that the meter is working within the standards set by the rules of the Commission and was accurately recording and registering complainant's usage. Under Commission Rule 20 CSR 4240-13.025B, Spire has made an appropriate adjustment for complainant's underbilled natural gas usage and properly rebilled complainant. Thank you.
Ms. Keeling, Chairman Roop, good morning. May it please the Commission. I am Ron Irving with Staff Counsel, and I am representing the staff of the Missouri Public Service Commission. This complaint arises from a rebilling for gas service from Spire, Missouri. Due to a programming error from the meter to the billing system, structural glass was incorrectly underbilled. When the error was discovered, Spire sent a letter and rebuilt structural glass. It should be noted that the meter itself recorded the amount of gas used correctly. During its investigation of this complaint, staff did not find any evidence that Spire has violated any statute, tariff, or commission rule. Staff verified that Spire used the correct rates from their tariff PSC Missouri 9 sheet number 4.2 that was in effect at that time. Under PSC Missouri 9 sheet number R-8.1, Spire is able to make billing adjustments for over or under billings. Situations similar to this in tariff sheet number R-8.2 allows the customer to pay the adjustment amount in equal installments over a period double which the billing adjustments was applicable. Spire followed up with structural glass several times to make arrangements for payments. Even though Spire did not violate any commission rule or applicable tariff, staff made several recommendations to Spire that it believes will improve the communication process with the customer in the future. One of these recommendations were, first, Spire should initiate contact with the customer once it has been determined that the customer's bill is in error. Second, the company should develop talking points to ensure the message conveyed to the customer is consistent and understandable. Finally, Spire should provide detailed information in the event of a rebill to ensure the customer can understand the charges. In their response to staff's report and recommendation, Spire indicated that they will take into consideration staff recommendations in order to improve customer communications. Staff witness Cedric Cunningham is available today to answer any questions you may have concerning the meters. Staff witness Debbie Bernson is available today to answer any questions you may have concerning whether Spire followed their tariff, rebilling, and staff's recommendations. Thank you. Sorry. I can answer any questions that you may have at this point.
Sure, this is Commissioner Roop. So by making the recommendations that staff has made, is it your position that the company failed to do those things, hence why the recommendations are being made?
No. These recommendations are basically just a way to make the process a little bit easier for the customer to make sure that these make sure that the customer can understand what's going on, just to make the communication a little bit better.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We thought we had a court reporter online, but we don't. She disappeared. And with that, we'll move on to putting on witnesses.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Shelley Laniello. I just jumped on. I'm the court reporter. I was on Zoom.
Okay, well, give me a minute to announce your presence, and then we'll go ahead and start taking live testimony. Once again, please speak clearly and into your microphones, and we will not be transcribing the entire proceeding at a later time, just the portion that the court reporter hasn't picked up until now. So please go on the record. And what's your name again, court reporter?
Shelley Laniello. Loniello.
Thank you, Mrs. Laniello or Ms. Laniello. Please go on the record for us. And Mr. Meyer, could you please put on your first witness?
Yes.
Mr. Raybeck, the witness stand is right over
Okay,
here.
thank you.
I believe is there a green light on that microphone? Okay, that one's
okay,
on all the
yeah.
time, so we won't have to turn it on. Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, and the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this proceeding? So help you God?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Sir, please state your name and spell your last name for the court.
Yeah, it's Cyril Rayback, and it's Cyril, last name Wrabec.
And what is your relationship with Structural Glass Systems, Inc.?
I am the owner and president.
Okay. What is the business of Structural Glass Systems, Inc.?
We do the assembly of aluminum frame pieces for the installation of commercial glazing products, storefront, curtain wall, doors, windows.
What sort of equipment do you use to put those aluminum pieces together?
Saws, drills, uh, forklift, basic machine shop type stuff.
Do you have any forges or machines which melt or smelt metal?
No,
Okay. And at some point, did Structural Glass Systems Inc. move into a facility at 9700 East 56th Street, Suite C in Raytown, Missouri?
yes, we left a previous location. We were a victim of a fire from a fellow tenant in the complex, and so everybody was had to leave. So we moved to a new location. Started the move in November of 2021.
Okay. And it was to that address that I just gave in Raytown.
That is correct.
Now, your prior facility, how many square feet did it occupy?
We started out at that location with 25,000 square feet, and then we had another additional 15,000 square feet of storage space, but the majority of our shop that we worked in was right about 25,000 square feet.
Did that prior facility have natural gas service?
It did.
And what was who was the provider of natural gas service for that prior facility?
Spire.
And what were your average bills for natural gas at the prior facility?
We only used gas in the wintertime because it was only used to heat. And it would average anywhere between $400, $500, $600 in that range during the coldest months.
Per month?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Then when you moved into the facility in Raytown at 9700 East 56th Street, is that a facility that you own or rent?
We're tenants, we lease it.
And after you moved into the facility, was some provision made for heat of that facility?
That is correct.
What provision was made for heating that facility?
The landlord installed 2 gas heaters.
Were there any other natural gas fixtures within that facility?
Not in our, no,
All right. So it's the 2 natural gas heaters.
that is correct.
All right. And and those were, I believe they're Resner heaters.
I believe so, yes.
All right. And do you know where your landlord got those?
He bought them pre-owned.
Okay. Then after those heaters were installed, did you set the thermostat within the premises?
My shop employees did, yes.
And what did they set it at?
We have a policy, just like we did in the previous shop, that would be kept at 55 degrees.
Okay. And when you moved into the facility at 9700 East 56th Street, Unit C, how many employees did Structural Glass Systems Inc. have?
As a result of the fire, we lost quite a bit of business, and in the move, had to lay off almost all of our shop staff. Excuse me. So the remaining employees, we had 2, the shop foreman and basically a laborer that helped with the move and the setup.
Okay. After Structural Glass Systems Inc. moved into the facility in Raytown in November 2021, did the facility sit empty for a while or sit idle?
It was a little bit of a transition period. So November, December was really a move-ins, more of a storage situation because we had to get out of the fire location. And then in the process of, I'd say, end of December into January, February was more of a shop installation and setup. There was no active work, revenue generating work occurring in the shop.
Okay. When did you begin get the shop kind of back up and going?
At the conclusion of the move-in period, which was roughly early spring of 2022, the remaining 2 shop employees had to be laid off and the shop sat fallow for a number of months after that.
Okay. And then once you moved into the Raytown facility, did you receive the bills for gas service at that facility?
Correct. We received a monthly bill.
May I approach? And you would have marked as zip number 1. What is that?
This would be the December 10th statement from Spire for gas at the location in question.
And what was the usage that you were billed for?
A very minimal 13 CCFs.
Okay. And what was the amount of that bill?
Total with everything was $132.
Okay. That would have been for a partial month right after you moved in.
That is correct.
Okay. Two. Do you recognize?
I
Do you
do.
recognize Exhibit 2?
I do.
What is it?
This is the Spire statement on January 12th of 2022.
So this is the first full month.
That is correct.
And what was the usage reflected there?
$422.
Well, that's the amount billed. What was the CCF?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The usage was 220 CCFs.
And what do they show as the prior reading and the present reading?
The previous reading, 13, and the usage, 220, gives a present reading of 233.
All right. Now, was that the amount of that bill consistent with what you had paid at your earlier facility?
Yes, except for 2 meter charges.
Okay. But this would not have been an unusual amount in your experience having operated structural glass systems.
That is correct.
And remind me, what is the square footage of the Raytown facility?
It is 15,000 square feet.
So this is 10,000 square feet smaller than your prior facility.
That is correct.
Okay. And go to 3. I've handed you what I've marked as Exhibit 3. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And for what period is that?
This would be the statement for gas billed over the next month. So this is the February 9th statement.
Okay. And what is the usage in CCFs there?
It has a previous reading of 233. It says we used exactly 199 CCFs with a
Okay.
present reading of 432.
And how much were you billed?
For the month of January, $400. $402 to be accurate, sorry.
And during that time frame, the only gas fixtures were the heaters, and there were 2 employees kind of running a skeleton crew.
At all times, there was only 2 gas heaters, correct?
And it was set at 55 degrees.
That is correct.
All right. I've handed you number 4.
Yes,
Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is it?
This is the March 10th statement, which would be the next month of Spire usage.
And what was the amount used that month in CCFs?
For that month, which was February, mostly February, we used 161 CCFs.
And how much were you charged?
It was a roughly $361.
Okay. Five. You recognize that?
I do.
What is that?
This is the next month, or, excuse me, this is April 12th statement.
Okay. And how much were you billed that month?
The dollar amount's $305.44.
Okay. Now, let's go to. What is Exhibit 6?
Exhibit 6 is the statement we received the following month, which is a date of May the 11th.
Okay. And how much is that bill for?
This bill is for current charges of $7,168.
And did you increase your natural gas usage by 2,000% that month?
I did not.
All right.
This is a corrected bill, or as it has a correction on it.
It notes a correction on it, correct?
Correct.
And it has 2 different meter readings on it. right?
It does.
Was the difference between those two meter readings ever explained to you?
No, I had a very hard time getting that explained to me from Spire.
Okay. Um, what did you do after you received this bill?
After after my heart stopped racing, I called Brianna, my assistant, and asked her what the heck was going on. We'd never seen anything like this ever. So we got on the phone with Spire.
Right. Had you known you were using that much gas before this May bill, what would you have done?
Turned the gas off.
Um, and this was the first you'd heard of this amount of usage, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And did you continue having communications with Spire about this corrected bill amount?
I attempted numerous times. Yes. I made contact numerous times, but
Okay.
the explanations were lacking.
I see. I'm handing you number 7. What is that?
This is June the 13th of 2022. This is the next month's statement.
Okay. How much does it show that you used that month?
About $300 worth.
And how many CCFs?
Again, this has 2 readings on here. So this says I used 0 CCFs.
Okay. So the bill the next month, the new gas usage is 300, give or take, which is consistent with those earlier bills that were purportedly in error.
A bill for about $300, $400, $500, $600 even. Certainly nothing that would catch my attention. Check would go out the door and get paid.
All right. And your new usage for the month of June is consistent with that 300.
That is, well, there was 0 usage. I turned the gas off.
Right. So, all right. Then,
Or I should say I turned the heaters off.
yes, turn the heaters off.
But this bill shows the current charges of $302, but reflects now this ongoing amount of the additional $71.68,
Okay.
$7,168.
So you mitigated your loss here by turning the heaters off.
Well,
Right.
we really had no idea what was going on, so that was the smartest thing to do.
Right. I've handed you 8 and 9. What are those?
8 is the following month, July the 12th, statement from Spire.
Okay. And what is 9?
And 9 is the month after that. 9 is 2 months after that, September the 23rd.
Okay. And do both of those reflect 0 usage?
That is correct.
And both of those simply rebuild this $7,000 amount?
That is correct.
Okay. And let's look at number 10. What is number 10?
Number 10 is 6 days later, September the 29th. And it is a bill for $127.83.
Now, it does show a usage number on there for that month, doesn't it?
It does.
And how much did Spire say you used that month in CCFs?
It's claiming a usage of 6579.
6,579 CCFs
That's what it says on here.
through the heater that you had turned off.
I believe so, yes. We do not have a heater on in September of 2022.
All right. And did Spire explain how they determined that you had used that amount of gas in 1 month in a turned off heater?
At this point, I was so confused on what was going on, I was not getting anything straight.
When you were negotiating with Spire, did they threaten to turn off your gas?
Yes, I received information to that effect, yes.
And did they turn off your gas?
They in fact did turn off my gas.
Before they turned it off, did you ask them to enter into a payment plan?
I tried twice to enter into a payment plan,
And how did they respond?
that it was not available. I indicated to them that I had received a communication that I was allowed to, but they disagreed.
Okay. Handed you 11. What is 11?
11 is a correspondence from Spire dated August the 2nd that says, we noticed natural gas is being used at this address without a Spire account.
Did any representative of Spire ever explain to you how you were using natural gas through a heater that you turned off and service that they had turned off?
No.
All right. For how long was the gas shut off the first time by Spire?
I got to think in terms of, at this point, we had already begun our dispute with the commission. So I think we went without gas from roughly this time up until it started getting very cold in late December later that year. So
22.
approximately 5 months.
Okay. July to December of 22.
Yes.
And then in December of 22, they did enter into a payment plan.
Then we were able to, yes.
Then after December 22, was it later turned off again? Or not?
No.
Okay. Well, it's 12.
12 is the same letter, but with a payment arrangement eligibility form on the second page,
Okay. So this is in August of 22.
August 2nd, 2022.
Okay. Let's look at.
Thank you.
What are 13 and 14?
13 is a letter dated the next day, August the 3rd, saying that this large amount, this $7,500, roughly $7,400, has not been paid. And if the disconnection amount is not paid by August 17th, they'll turn off my service.
Okay.
And Exhibit 14 is September the 1st, so the next month. And this says, again, your bill has not been paid. If we don't receive payment by September 15th, we'll have to turn off your natural gas. And
15 and 16.
15 is a final notice dated September the 6th. And Exhibit 16 is a final notice missing a date at the top.
Okay. Then I want to show you. So, but to recap,
It might be just a copy error.
you were able to enter into a payment arrangement with Spire.
Well, we made a couple of attempts, and I received a correspondence from the initial complaint to the commission that said that they found in favor of Spire, and that I was able to enter into a payment arrangement on, it was either like they say 12, 18, or 24 months. I called Spire with that correspondence I received from the commission, and they told me that was inaccurate and I was not eligible for that. I contacted the commission again, Charm, I believe was her name, and she indicated to me that yes, in fact, that was something that they would do for me, but they wouldn't do it. And that was roughly, I think, September of 2022. Without seeing the dates of the correspondence with the commission, I can't say with exact certainty.
Then you were able to get it turned back on in January.
My assistant Brianna made another attempt in November because we knew it was going to start cooling off. We have sprinklers, water sprinklers in that facility. There was a concern about the pipes freezing. She was unsuccessful in November. And then in December, we finally were able to do it, but we had to open up a new account to make it happen.
Okay.
And that was, I believe, the week of Christmas. So like the 21st of December.
Of
roughly.
22.
Correct.
All right. Now I want to hand you. What is Exhibit 17?
Exhibit 17 is a letter from Spire dated April 14th of this year.
Of 2023.
That is correct.
All right, a couple weeks ago.
That is, yes.
And what is Spire stating in the letter?
If we do not pay $8,061 by April 28th, they're going to turn off our gas.
All right. What is the total amount that Spire's claiming in that letter?
Well, now they're saying I owe them $11,197.
Has Spire explained to you how that bill got $4,000 higher?
No,
All right. They made any attempt to reach out to you and explain why they want another $4,000 or they're going to turn your gas off?
if they have sent something, I haven't seen it, but our mail moves a little slow with our office with Brianna being on maternity leave.
Okay. Your Honor, I have nothing else. I would move to admit 1 through 17.
Are there any objections to the admission of exhibits 1 through 17 submitted by Structural Glass Systems Incorporated on the record?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, do I submit those to you or?
Yes, just hand them to me. Okay, then, Structural Glass Systems exhibits 1 through 17 are received on the record.
I have no further questions of the witness.
Thank you. Mr. Arias?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Raybeck.
Good morning.
Did I get that right, Raybeck?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you a couple questions here. We're gonna bounce around from your testimony. Just gonna start with your prior address. You said your provider was Spire, correct?
That is correct.
And that you were a tenant in was it like a facility, a building?
It was a very large industrial complex.
Were there other tenants in that building?
There were.
Did you have your own meter in that building?
I did not.
So you were billed based on how were you billed?
The landlord would send us a bill.
Okay, and were you billed for your accurate usage, or were you billed based on total usage for the building divided up based on square footage, or?
No, my understanding, there were dozens and dozens of meters there. So there was no way it was split up. If it was between me and the guy next door.
Okay, so,
It would have been a small amount.
okay, so do you have bills showing the number of CCFs you used per month?
I do,
You do have that, okay.
but it is not to me. It is to my landlord.
Okay. All right, so moving on. Actually, I will ask you, I'll start with the bills that, the exhibits that Mr. Meyer provided. Can you turn to the bill with the statement date 6/13/2022?
Your Honor, I'm going to need those exhibits back.
You know,
And which one, Counselor?
6/13/2022.
Exhibit 7.
I'm gonna go with, if it says
Okay.
6/13/2022, I don't have actually, yes, it is Exhibit 7. I have the number right down here.
I've got it.
Okay, so, Mr. Meyer, your attorney asked you whether or not, you had any usage in that month, and you said 0, correct?
Yes, that's what the statement indicates.
Okay, and the total current charges was $302.22 at the bottom.
Yes,
And even though you didn't have usage, you still had a delivery charge of $167.33, correct?
Yes, I don't know what that is.
And that's mostly made up of the customer charge of $161.39, correct?
I believe that's what it says.
Okay. And the other bulk charge on there, other than taxes, is the utility late charge of $107.53,
Yes.
correct? Okay, thank you. And then just looking at Exhibit 10, where you were asked, I'll give you a second.
Exhibit 10 being September 29th, 2022.
That's correct. And at the top, you have two lines of usage, 1.0 and 1.6,579 CCF, correct?
Yes.
But were you billed for any usage on that bill? Were you billed for $6,579 on that bill? Or CCF on that bill?
I don't know. It says that's what it says the usage is.
Okay, so if we go down into the lines below,
Mm-hmm.
you're billed for a customer charge. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's under the delivery charge.
Yes.
And you were billed for taxes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just see here. So if you actually go to exhibit now, I'm just going to the first one I see that will allow me to ask this question. If you compare that bill with exhibit 6, and that has a statement date of May 11th, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go down to the lines below that break out your bill, did you have a natural gas cost of 130? Is there a natural gas cost of $132.45?
That is correct.
And it says it's for a usage of 167 CCF.
Correct.
And if you compare that with Exhibit 10, do you see that natural gas cost with a usage on your bill?
No.
Okay, thank you. Second. So I'm gonna look at the time periods here. So for the periods of November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022, subject to check, or actually, we'll start here. Do you know how many CCFs that Spire billed structural glass for over that period?
I have no idea without going through and adding them up.
Okay.
I don't deal in a world of CCFs. I
Yes,
deal in a
no,
world of how much the check's going out the door is going to be.
I understand. So let me give you, actually, hold on. I think I can use the exhibits that you have.
Okay.
Just looking for a specific bill. All right, so I'll have you pull out Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 5.
Okay.
So on Exhibit 1, and you look at your usage at the top chart at the top. You have a previous reading and a present reading. Is that
Yes.
correct? So would you, and just to back up a second, Structural Glass started receiving service from Spire on November 24th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's your start date. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So for that month, 11/25/2021 to 12/9/2021, you have a previous reading of 0 and a present reading of 13. So
Correct.
that previous reading would be consistent with starting service at a new address with a new meter. Would you agree?
0 is a good starting point, yes.
Yes. Okay. So when we turn to Exhibit 5, and that's your bill from 3/11/2022 to 4/12/2022. And the period that Spire rebilled you for was November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022. Is that correct?
I need you to repeat that question.
Okay. So not looking at the bills, the period in question that Spire rebilled you for was November 24th, your start date, to April 12th, 2022.
I received a correction notice on or around April 2022, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that April, and I think if we can turn to the next bill, I think that's Exhibit 6. If I have it correctly. And at the top, it says bill correction period 11/24/2021 to 4/12/22.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And there, your previous reading is 7 on, back to Exhibit 5. Your present reading is 7:02.
That is correct.
So if you started at 0 on November 24th, 2021, and your present reading on 4/12/2022, comes out to 702 CCFs. Would you agree with that?
That's what this says.
Okay. And now, do you know how many CCF Spire rebilled you for?
When I received the large statement in May, which is Exhibit 6, they said that there was a bill correction period, 11/24/21 to 4/12/22 for $6,801. It's the first line underneath the CCFs.
Okay. I'm just trying to pull up a specific bill here. I'm sorry. I missed that. Apologies, Your Honor. Okay. 1 second. So I have your May 11th, 2022 bill.
Yes.
Do you have that in front of you?
I do, Exhibit 6.
Exhibit 6, okay. Just so everyone knows. I could not find my own Exhibit 6, so I shifted to your stack of bills that I have here. So on your April 12th statement, you had a previous reading of 702, is that correct?
That is correct.
And what is your previous reading now? So on your May 11th, 2022 bill?
That is incorrect. On April the 12th, the previous reading is 593. The present reading on April 12th
Oh,
is 702.
I apologize, the present reading. What is your present reading on April 12th, 2022?
702.
Thank you. And what is your previous reading now on May 11th, 2022?
7022.
7022. So I'm from 702 to 7022.
That is correct.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you. And that's on the correction period bill.
That is what the statement reflects
Okay.
on the corrected bill.
So would you agree that Spire's position is that instead of using 702 CCFs from November 24th, April 12th, 2021 to April 12th, or November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022, Spire initially built, okay, let me restart my question here so
Please.
I'm not confusing you. So Spire's position, then would you agree that Spire's position is that it initially billed you for 702 CCFs from November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022. And on this bill, rebuild you for that period, that same period, and rebuild you, and now it's now saying that you use 7,022 CCFs.
I am not in a position to state what Spire's position is, but I can tell you what the statement says.
Okay. And that, would you agree that's what the statement is saying?
The statement says that I have a corrected bill adding $6,801 because the reading is different than it was the month before.
Okay.
I have an April that says 702 and I got a May that says 7,022.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'm going to give you my stack of bills because I do not believe that they were part of Mr. Meyer's initial exhibits. And Your Honor, I have a packet of bills here that includes some of the bills that Mr. Meyer had. It also goes as the structural glass bills until April 2023. I only have 2 copies on me, and I will use one, and then I can give that to you, or I can file it afterwards, submit it electronically. Is that okay?
That'll be fine.
Okay. And for the other councils, I am looking at structural glasses statement, bill statement from Spire dated 1/19/2023. I can give anybody a second to pull that up if they need to. I apologize for not having additional copies.
This is in a different format than,
I can show you, this is the bill that we have in our system. Are you guys okay? Okay. Mr. Raybeck, would you agree that this is your statement? That this is your Spire bill that you've received on dated 1/19/2023?
it took me a second, but it's because we've got 2 service addresses now.
Yes, that's correct. So if
Okay.
you go back the page before, I think it's your cover
That's-
sheet, and you see your address, Structural Glass Systems, Inc., 10203 East US Highway 24. Is that correct?
That is an office location.
Okay.
I believe that the address in question is the 9700 East 56th.
That's correct. So if you turn to the initial page I showed you, that shows your itemized bill and your usage. Are you there? Can you
Yes,
see
I
it?
am. Yeah, the one
Okay,
you gave me.
and if you look at the bottom half of the bill, you see on the right side, service address 9700
Correct.
East 56th Street C. And that's for that bottom half of the bill.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So can you, in that top line, could you tell me what your previous reading was?
Previous reading is 7,190,
And can you tell me what your present reading is?
8,116.
And can you tell me how many CCFs you were billed based on those readings?
On the first line says 926.
Okay, thank you. And if you go down into the natural gas cost in the itemized bill that Spire billed you for, could you tell me what the usage was?
926.
926 CCF. Thank you. And that gave you a total current charge of how much for the month, for the period from December 23rd, 2022 to January 1st, January 11th, 2023.
Well, again, I don't know why there's 2 meters on here for that address.
But were you billed, okay, so if we look at that, were you billed for, so you have a usage of 926 and a usage of 78.
Correct. But
Were you billed the 78 for that 78 CCFs?
I've got 2 usages listed under the delivery charge.
And you, okay, so you have two usages listed there. You have a 138 and 9 CCF at 13 cents. Is that correct?
Yes,
And then you have another usage of 787.1 CCF at 15 cents.
yes.
And if you add 138.9 and 7087.1, I mean, I don't have a calculator in front of me, but subject to check, would that appear to equal 926 CCF?
I think so.
Okay. And Your Honor, I guess this isn't a question to ask, and just for clarity purposes, a rate for you to take notice, a rate increase went into effect on, I believe, December 26th, 2022. And that is why there are 2 different delivery charges billed. That's why there's 2, it broke out the 926 because it was the first portion charged at the rates prior to December 26th and the rates charged after, just for clarity purposes for the.
That was nice. They waited till after Christmas.
So would you agree that your usage that you were billed on January 19th for the address at 9700 East 56th Street C was 926 CCF?
Yes,
And
on
your-
this, according to the statement,
And your total current charges was 1,300.
$1,306.47.
Okay, thank you. Now, if we turn to the next bill statement that you received, it's 2/9/2023.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And if you look at, so we're going to go basically mirror that. So your previous reading is 8,116, is that correct? On that top line?
8,116.
And your present reading is 9,639.
That is correct.
And the total usage CCF there is 1523.
That is what the statement says, yes.
And if you go to the itemized charge there, your usage was 15,023 is what you were charged for.
Yes.
Okay. And what was your total current charge there?
Total current charges, $2,341.51.
Okay, thank you. So if we look at those two bills, we can even go into March, but I won't do that. If you look at those 2 bills, do you have any reason to contest the charges that the usages Spire billed you for?
This is January and February of 2023.
Yes.
So no, I don't.
Okay. So you were billed. Okay. So you agree that Spire's bills are accurate for these 2 months?
Given the amount of work that we're doing in the shop this year and the temperature outside and the amount of times we've had the doors opening and closing, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Mr. Irving?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just have one question. Is structural glass a residential or business account?
It's a business account.
Thank you. No other questions.
Now on to the commissioners. Chairman Roop, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Commissioner Roop, for the record. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
What was in the location before you moved to this location? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. When you signed your lease, did the landlord give you any estimates of utility bill costs or any copy bills or any of this is an average?
No.
Okay. What is your average bill now?
Well, that's hard to answer. I have not looked at these, to be honest with you. And I believe you heard my testimony that I think I know why these are the amount that they are, but it appears that we had a very expensive January and February. So I can't speak to what I believe the average would be. I don't know.
What'd you pay last month?
I don't know.
I guess I have other questions. I think I'll save them for the company. We can get into the actual numbers, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Coleman, are you still there? And do you have any questions for the witness?
I don't. I think my thinking is along the same lines of Commissioner Chairman Roop, and I look forward to his questions to the company. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no questions. Is there any recross by Spire?
Just one question, actually, and I'm not sure this is something that needs to be recrossed just for clarity purposes. From the period of November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022, did Structural Glass have their heat on at this location?
The heat was on. Yes.
Heat was on. Okay, thank you.
Is that all? Yes. Mr. Irving, do you have any recross?
No, do not.
Mr. Meyer, do you have any redirect?
Mr. Rayback, are there other tenants at the Raytown building?
There are other spaces. Yes.
All right, so there's other spaces. You're in space C, correct?
Yes.
And are those other spaces inhabited by other businesses?
They are.
Have you had occasion to speak to those other tenants about their gas bills?
I have.
And what have they told you about their gas bills, what their average gas bills are?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to him saying what other people, I think this is a hearsay objection.
Sustained.
The other spaces within this complex, are they of comparable size to yours?
Some are. Yes.
All right. And to your knowledge, have any of the other tenants been presented with a $7,000 bill for gas service from Spire?
I think that's another hearsay objection, Your Honor.
Not asking for a statement. I'm asking if he has knowledge about whether they've been presented with such a bill.
I'll overrule that.
To my knowledge, nobody's received a bill of that nature. No.
All right. Thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, if there's no other questions, you are dismissed. Mr. Meyer, your second witness, is she not going to be here?
No further witnesses for the complainant.
Thank you very much. Then we'll move on to Spire. Mr. Arias, do you have any witnesses?
I do, Your Honor. Can I just very briefly, Spire would like to admit the stack of the complainant's bills from December 10th, 2021 to bill dated April 11th, 2023 as Spire Exhibit 1.
Is Exhibit 1 your number?
Or Actually, I don't think we discussed numbers.
Wasn't it on the procedural schedule? How about if
Oh,
we,
oh, my exhibit one. Yes, it was. My understanding is it was. But I will check here. It was, Your Honor.
you are exhibit one?
Yes.
Okay, well, we already have 1 through 17 on the record right now. We're gonna go ahead and give you 101. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so your exhibit 101, which is the document stack that Mr. Robeck was just reading from, you want that to be admitted as exhibit 101. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, are there any objections to that?
To those electronically or some other fashion?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
Good.
I will send an email after the hearing with that exhibit and any other exhibits I don't have copies for to the parties and Your Honor.
Very good. Mr. Meyer, are you okay with that?
Yeah, no objection.
Okay. If there's no other objections, then exhibit 101 is received into evidence on the record. So, Mr. Arias, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. Spire would like to call Ms. Alexis Johnson to testify.
Could you raise your right hand, Ms. Johnson? Do you solemnly swear to or affirm that the testimony you give in this hearing shall be the truth? I do. May proceed.
Good morning, Ms. Johnson. Could you please provide your name and business address for the record?
Alexis Johnson, 700 Market Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63101.
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
Spire employs me. I am in their community services department as a community services partner.
Okay. And what are your job responsibilities as a community services partner?
My primary responsibility was the handling of complaints, so from any fashion, including the Missouri Public Service Commission and legal, and collecting data for legal request.
And in that position, what was your involvement in this case, docket number GC 2023-0143?
To compile the documents for the data request.
And were you able to put together all of the data responses to the data requests from the PSC based on information available to the Consumer Services Department?
No, we did have to reach out to numerous departments.
So you have to, okay, thank you. And just looking at the rebilling process, are you familiar with Spire's rebilling process?
Yes,
And that's for when Spire either overbills or underbills a customer.
yes,
And and as a community services partner, was the rebilling of structural glass for the usage between November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022, done in accordance with Spire's processes and procedures for rebilling a customer?
yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any questions from staff?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Johnson, can you explain what I just handed you?
This is the differential meter test that we submitted with the Missouri Public Service Commission per their request for a meter test. The information listed in the email was provided by our large volume meter departments. And that is all the information I have towards it.
Okay.
Ask her if the meter was be accurate.
Does this, was it found that the meter was to be accurate and working?
From the information provided by the large volume meter departments, yes.
All right, Your Honor, I would like to enter Staff Exhibit 201.
Are there any objections to receiving Exhibit 201 on the record as evidence?
No, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor. I would just like to note for staff and Your Honor that Spire's next witness, James Risky, is the Director of Measurement, and any additional questions that staff has, he will be able to answer those.
Very good, thank you. Exhibit number 201 is received into evidence.
You don't have to ask her. You can ask
Ms. Johnson, I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you.
Mr. Meyer, do you have any questions?
Briefly. Ms. Johnson, did you look at this meter yourself?
No,
Did you do any of the testing on it?
no,
You compiled information from others?
yes.
Nothing further?
Thank you. We'll move on to the commissioners. Chairman Roop? Commissioner Coleman, do you have any questions for the witness?
No questions. Thank you.
Very good. I don't have any questions myself. So, you have any redirect?
Nothing from Spire, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, if we're done with this witness, you are dismissed. Thank you.
No, you're good. Your Honor, at this time, Spire would like to call Mr. James Risky to testify.
Mr. Risky, could you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear that the testimony you're going to give at this hearing is the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Proceed.
Mr. Risky, could you please provide your name and business address for the record?
Yeah, my name is Jim Risky. I am James Risky. I am the measurement director. My business address is 700 Market Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63101.
And by whom are you employed?
Spire.
And what are your responsibilities as the measurement director?
I am responsible for all customer metering for all Spire customers and for providing our billing system timely and accurate reads for customer bills.
And those are both residential and commercial customers, correct?
That's correct.
And how many years have you been with Spire, and how many years have you been with Spire in this position?
I've been with Spire for 33 years in various positions. I have been the measurement director for 4.5 years.
Thank you. And in preparation for your testimony today, have you reviewed the materials in this docket?
I have.
Okay. So turning to the PTZ corrector configuration. So the root cause of this complaint is that Spire set an incorrect PTZ corrector configuration for the structural glasses meter, and this is an undisputed fact of this complaint. Could you explain the purpose of the PTZ corrector configuration?
Yes. We have been in the process of modernizing our large volume meter technology. We've gone from traditionally we've used meters that have mechanical indexes on them, and the movement of the meter is tracked from mechanical indexes. The PTZ is an electronic index that goes on the meter that also has a pressure and temperature sensor. So it's continuously measuring the gas flowing through the meter and correcting it in real time for both pressure and temperature. We introduced that technology company-wide in 2021, and we began to deploy it in Missouri West in the fall of 2021.
And what were the issues with the PTC corrector configuration on complainant's meter in this case?
So the meter records the information, and on a monthly basis, it sends the current reading through a communication module to our billing system. In Kansas City, the configuration that they used was concatenating the first digit of the read. When it was the PTZ, because I'll explain, I got to look there, so let me explain that. So on a traditional mechanical meter with a mechanical index, there's always a dial that is below the billing unit of measure of hundreds of cubic feet. So when the ERT sends a reading to the billing system, it knows that first dial is not a billing dial. So it concatenates that digit from the read. When we went to the PTZ sends a reading that is in hundreds of cubic feet. Unfortunately, our billing system was still concatenating that first digit. So it moved the reading 1 decimal place to the left. This was unique to Kansas City. When we started installing them in Kansas City, we were watching the reads on these instruments, and we saw the readings that didn't make sense to us. We investigated it, and we discovered that this was happening. The reading on the meter was still accurately being recorded. The reading being sent by the ERT device was accurately being recorded. The billing system was dropping a decimal. When we discovered that, we notified customers and went back through several dozen customers that we had to correct the bill because of that issue.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the meter is registering natural gas usage properly.
That's correct.
And the meter reads that can and were pulled directly from the meter were accurate.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So I am going to pass out Spire Exhibit 102.
Yeah.
Spire Exhibit 102 is a out of reads report, an excerpt of the out of reads report that was provided to complainant in response to data requests from complainant to Spire and circulated also to staff with Spire's responses. So this is an excerpt targeting the time in question, the period in question, November 24th, 2021 to and it goes up till May 11th, 2022, but it captures the 4/12/2022, the end of the period in question in this case. Mr. Risky, are you familiar with this out of reads report?
Yes, I am.
What information does this report show?
So it's a record of readings collected over time for a particular meter. And what it will show for each reading collected, it'll show what the raw read is, and then it'll show if it was a 4-dial meter, what the usage would be, what a 5-dial meter was, what the reading would be, 6-dial, and then correctors in each column.
Okay, so the raw reads would be what the meter was registering at the customer service address.
That's correct.
Okay. And could you explain the difference between the 6-dial read column and the 6C, 6U PTZ corrector column?
Yes, that shows or demonstrates what I was saying we had revealed as the problem. So the raw read was 171 on December 10th of 2021. And because it was assuming it had a dial that was below 100 cubic feet, it dropped the 1 and made the reading 17. When in fact, the reading was 171 because the reading was being broadcast in hundreds of cubic feet.
So the number in the raw read column is the same as the number in the 6C, 6U PTZ corrector number.
That's correct.
Column. Okay. And looking at this spreadsheet, was the, and I know we don't have November 24th, 2021 on there, but on, I think it's, I can count, but on November 11th, 2021, what was the raw read for this meter?
0.
0. Thank you. And was the meter brand new?
It was.
Thank you. And is the 0 reading on November 11th consistent with a brand new meter?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Thank you. And now looking at the read on April 12th, 2022, which is the end of the period in question, what was the raw read that day?
7,022.
7,000 in 2020 and 22. Okay, thank you. And what was the 6C, 6U PTZ corrector reading for that day?
7,022.
Thank you. So would you agree that based on those, the usage being 0 on November 11th, 2021, and the usage being 7,022 on April 12th, 2022, would you agree the total usage would be 7,022 CCFs
That's correct.
over the period of November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And now turning, so now I'll pass on, actually at this time, Your Honor, Spire would like to admit Exhibit 102 into the record.
Mr. Irving, do you have any objections to that?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Meyer?
No objection.
Well, I have a question before I admit that. Mr. Arias, what did you say this was? When you handed this to me, what did you characterize this document as?
This is this out of reads report is the out of reads report for this meter reflecting all the reads. It was provided to complainant in response to complainant's first set of data requests to Spire as an attachment.
Mr. Reski, do you agree with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
I apologize, Your Honor.
Exhibit 102 is received into evidence. Thank you.
Mr. Risky, you have a document in front of you that's been marked Exhibit 103. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. And is that the complainant's responses to Spire's data requests?
Yes.
And data request number 2 asks, could you state what data request number 2 requests?
What is the total square footage of the building located at the address at 9700 East 56th Street C, Raytown, Missouri, 64113-133, occupied by Structural Glass Systems Incorporated?
And could you state what the complainant's response was for the total square footage of their building?
15,204 square feet.
Thank you. And another of the data requests was the technical specifications of complainant's natural gas appliances. What is the BTU rating of complainant's furnace?
250,000 BTU.
Thank you. And what is the size of the meter that was installed and is currently in place at complainant service address?
It is a 1,500 CCF CFH meter, so 1.5 million cubic feet per hour.
Thank you. And your testimony from a couple minutes ago is that based on the meter reads, that meter report, complainant used 7,022 CCF of natural gas from November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022. Looking at complainant's square footage of their building and meter size, is this the amount of natural gas that you would expect to be used with complainant's building square footage?
So every property is different. And depending on the characteristics of the structure and the height of the ceilings and how often they're opening, closing doors, overhead doors, all can impact what a facility would use. But generally speaking, in my experience, when we look at warehouses, you can expect that you're going to use about 250 CCF for every 3,000 square feet of a warehouse space. Taller the ceilings are, generally the more that is, because it's about heating a volume of air. So on a facility like this, I would expect in their wintertime for their usage to be somewhere around 1,500 CCF a month in wintertime heating usage. That's just heating.
And so looking at their usage from, I guess, November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022, for the usage that the customer was rebilled for, would you agree that it is a reasonable amount of natural gas to be used to heat their facility?
In my experience, it is very consistent with that size facility and the general nature of what I knew that facility to be.
And have you reviewed the customer's bills for the period, like customer had restarted their gas service on December 23rd, 2022. And so in the months of January and February, would you agree that the usage in those months is also reasonable in your experience?
Yes.
Okay. And now I just wanted to turn very quickly to exhibit. Got it in front of me again. Exhibit 7, or complainant's exhibit 7.
Mm-hmm.
So in the chart at the top of the itemized, not the itemized portion of the bill, but the chart above on exhibit 7, and that's complainant's bill, correct? Could you state the statement date on the bill?
It is June 13th of 2022.
And there is, in the chart above the itemized bill, there's 2 lines, which shows two previous readings and 2 present readings. Could you explain why the second line is on that bill?
Yes. So Missouri West has traditionally used, as I said, an older billing configuration. When we introduced the PTZs, there's a line of data in our billing system that isn't billing data that now shows up on the report because in Missouri West, they never recognized having the data the way that we do. So it's a meaningless row of data.
So it's a legacy issue from incorporating a different.
Yes. It's
System.
incorporating new technology and new data from new technology that revealed itself on the bill that we didn't, in a way that we didn't realize it would.
And this new technology that has been incorporated into Missouri West, is it provide more accurate data, usage data for the company?
So the meter itself records for 6 months hourly readings, including the compensation factors for the customer. So yes, we have a grain of data with that is far greater than what we've had in the past.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Very good. Well, right now it's 10:44. I think that we need to take a break and give our court reporter a rest. And so before we continue with cross-examination, I want to take a break until 11 o'clock. So please be back in the room and be ready to proceed at 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Your Honor.
It is 11 o'clock and we will resume our hearing. Right now, we left off with Mr. Arias, his direct examination of Mr. James Risky. Mr. Arias, proceed.
Um, just one brief question, Your Honor. Looking at Exhibit 7, that the bill that we had touched on right before we broke, Mr. Risky, was there anything else you wanted to add to clarify that second line
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
bill?
I would just, so I just wanted to provide a little clarity around what that number is, right? And so, the PTZ, as I said, measures the gas and it corrects for pressure and temperature. And we bill on the corrected read. The instrument provides an uncorrected read that allows us to validate that corrected read. We had never collected those reads in Missouri West before. And so when we started collecting them, they showed up on the bill. And that's what that line is. And so, again, it was a discovery when we used the new pieces of equipment. So,
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, Spire has no other direct examination. Mr. Risky is available for cross.
Very good. Mr. Irving, do you have any cross-examination for Mr. Risky?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Risky, does Spire actually test structural glasses meter?
yes, we performed an on-site differential pressure test.
What were the results of that test?
The meter was tested at 3 different flow rates, and those flow rates, the test results were compared against accuracy curves, and all of them were found to be accurate.
Okay. All right. I have no other questions at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Irving. Mr. Meyer, do you have any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Risky, when this meter was replaced in October of 2021, how is that done? What does that look like?
So it wasn't a replacement, it was an installation.
Right?
And so, they will come out and connect. Typically, we have a standpipe or a riser coming up off the service line, and they will come out and use threaded fittings to create, in this case, I believe it was an inline connection. So they create an inlet and outlet pipe, and it's a threaded connection into that. Now, when they set the meter, we also then have to inspect the customer facility, fuel runs, and appliances before we turn it on. So typically, we would set it. In this case, we did set it and then performed a turn on at a later date when the customer was ready for gas.
So this installation was of one of these, and what type of meter was installed?
So
The PTZ
It's a Romet rotary meter with a PTZ electronic index and pressure corrector connected to it.
and these were relatively new at the time of this installation.
Yeah, we had started using the technology in 2021.
Okay. Now, when I look at Exhibit 102, I see the 6 dial read and then the 6C PTZ correctors column. And is it correct that with a rotary dial, the maximum number of digits is 6.
It collects the reads in 6 digits. That's correct.
Okay. And then the PTZ also collects the reads in 6 digits.
So the PTZ is the only device collecting reads.
Okay.
It's collecting the reads off of the movement of the meter. And so
Okay.
it's collecting, it is the sole collection of the reads, is the PTZ.
So on the sheet, when we see the read for the 6 dial read, is that number meaningless, or why is it 1/10 of the PTZ corrector's number?
So that line of data has suffered the same fate of our original meter reads. It also has a digit concatenated. So there's a significant digit beyond 611 that's not showing on there.
Okay. And is that to the left or the right?
So the reading was moved 1 digit to the left.
Okay. And in the case of the structural glass systems meter, for how many months was this did this concatenation continue?
So it was from November 2021 to April 12th, 2022.
6 months? 5?
5 months, yes.
Is it timely and accurate to permit that sort of that discrepancy in billing for 5 months?
We had to discover the issue and then we had to figure out how to remediate it in our company systems, right? Meanwhile, we knew we were accurately recording the usage. So yes, it took 5 months from the time we put that meter in until we had a solution for fixing the way that the reads were presented to our billing system.
But in the interim, the bills for the lower amount were mailed to the customer.
To customers that had that device, yes.
And those customers, including Structural Glass Systems, Inc., paid those bills in reliance on their accuracy.
That's
You
correct.
agree with that?
Yes.
And then after you discovered your error, you sent the updated and newer bills.
We followed our tariff provisions for providing a rebill to those customers for the
And sent
underbilling.
Structural Glass Systems a bill for $7,000 in gas usage that they had not been informed of in the prior 5 months. Right?
I can't speak to what you knew or didn't know, but I do know we issued you a rebill on April 12th.
When did Spire first know about this issue?
I'm not sure of the exact date.
How many other customers had this issue
There were several dozen.
in the Kansas City area?
Yes.
Okay. Were they all commercial?
Yes.
Okay. And you kind of gave what I call a back of the napkin estimate of how many cubic or CCFs are used in
Right.
a comparable warehouse. There are a lot of factors that could play into that estimate, correct?
Yes.
Ambient temperature outside versus inside, correct?
Yes.
The setting that the customer sets their thermostat at.
Location. Yes. Sure. The location of the thermostat. Sure.
Yeah. And the efficiency and age of the heating unit involved.
Somewhat. Yes.
If you had an older one, they might use a little more,
Yeah.
might be dirty or inefficient. Okay. So this estimate of 250 CCFs per 3,000 square feet, how hot would that get your building if you were using that much gas?
I couldn't begin to speculate on that, but it's, let me give you a more precise answer to the question you're asking. When Structural Glass Systems applied for gas service, they supplied us with the equipment that they were going to need to serve that building. When they did, they provided a list of equipment that totaled to 1.6 million BTUs of equipment at 2 pounds of delivery pressure.
Okay.
So that is generally a mechanical contractor's estimate of what will be required to heat that facility. That kind of equipment on a normal winter month for heating would produce a bill in excess of 2,000 CCF. That's an engineering fact.
If it's 1.6 million
BTUs, yes.
of natural gas.
Yes.
All right, now I want to, you still have 103 in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is structural glasses responses to the data request.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked for the gas appliances, and the sole gas appliance was the Resner heater. And do you see a BTU rating on that heater?
I do.
What is that?
250,000 BTUs.
So that's significantly less than the 1.6 million you just mentioned.
That's correct.
So assuming for purposes of my question that the sole natural gas appliance within structural glass systems facility is this heater at 250,000 BTU, what would an average CCF per month usage be?
So, couple things. In the testimony today, I heard contradiction to that. I believe I heard that there were 2 furnaces at that address. So
Correct.
would you agree this is not accurate?
There were 2 of these. Okay, so that's 500,000.
Okay. So here's the deal. So this is baked in science. So the space that you have to heat has a volume of air. And your heating unit will produce heated air. It has to fill that volume of space to the temperature that your thermostat sets it at. So when you don't put sufficient heating equipment to move the air sufficiently in the space, it will just run more, and it will run inefficiently, and it will burn more gas. So the fact that this didn't have adequate heating equipment for the space doesn't actually help the usage to heat the space. It actually makes it worse. And so it will consume what it needs to heat that space, and it just means it runs more.
How many CCFs would 2 of these units use per month to heat 15,000 square foot space?
It depends on how often they run, and I have no way of speculating on how often they run. Although if there were 2 trying to heat 15,000 square feet, they were running all the time, especially if there were garage doors and those sorts of things that would be open and create ambient outside air into the space.
Now, you heard the testimony that the property wasn't being used and the heat was set at 55 degrees, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And during these 5 months, Spire didn't inform SGS of its alleged gas usage that it was later billed for, correct? It wasn't until April that the
It was,
rebill got
yeah,
sent out.
it was, yes.
All right. Is there someone else affiliated with Spire who would know when this problem was discovered?
I would know when that problem was discovered. However, I don't have that information with me today.
But you wrote.
I was directly in the conversations about the problem they discovered and trying to figure out what it was, why it was happening, and how to fix it. That all came through me.
Do you have a ballpark recollection of when?
My recollection was that we really started to discover the problem in February of 2022. It was
February.
after we had had meters in for a couple months.
Okay. So you were installing them in October and then the issue came to light in February.
I think we really realized that the nature of the issue in February, yes.
No further questions.
Okay, then we'll move to questions by the commissioners. Commissioner Coleman, are you there and do you have any questions?
No questions, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Chairman Roop has stepped out. He may return. But I have some questions.
Sure.
Okay. Are you aware that what the monthly usage or usage volume since the correct meter readings have been established, and how did those compare with the usage volumes alleged in the complaint in this case?
So you're talking at this specific address?
Yes.
Yes. So, by comparison, during the period that we had the reading issue in February or March, they were using around 1,800 CCF a month. Again, I don't have it exactly in front of me. I looked at it by month over month when I was looking at the data. In 2023, we have a bill here that it was, I believe it was over 1,500 CCF. So it was very consistent between 22 and 23.
Okay. Why did the remedy or the fix not occur until after the April reading, if the issue or the problem was discovered in January?
Yeah, so we had a couple things. We had to go back through the accounts and find the accounts that we felt like had an issue. And we had to start working through those to correct the bills and go through the mechanics of contacting the customer and so forth. And that took a period of time. The other thing we wanted to do was we had to make a patch to our billing system to be able to prevent this from happening in the future. And so we tried to coincide doing the rebills with a time where we knew they wouldn't get any subsequent bills that we would have to correct.
Are you aware what the gas usage at this address was with the prior owner or occupant?
I am not aware of that information.
Okay. And I guess, why did it take until January to figure out that the readings were wrong?
So unfortunately, we don't get readings in our billing system more frequently than once a month. And so in this, for instance, in this example, it was a new meter. So we didn't have any history on that meter, right? So it actually took us having a few of them where we questioned the lower readings on new meters to start investigating and discovering that this was happening, right? So we're getting very infrequent data with new customers. So it just took us a while to recognize the pattern in the bills and then connect it to that equipment, right?
When was the meter new?
It was installed November, I believe, 24th of 2021.
So has it been tested since May of 2022?
No.
When was it tested?
It was tested, I believe it was tested in August of 22.
Regarding the new meter technology, the PTZ technology, did you test that new meter technology with its billing software before deploying it?
Yes, we did.
What steps did you take in testing it?
So we went through a series of tests. First of the actual equipment itself and confirming the registration and the way that it calculated the usage. And then we had a number of beta units that we installed and tested the technology in our billing system. So to be able to use it, we didn't actually have to, we were reusing configurations we already had. And so we tested it in a number of locations. All of them, unfortunately, were not in Kansas City. And we had literally hundreds of these devices installed before we installed the first one in Kansas City. And what got us in Kansas City was we didn't realize they had a legacy billing configuration that was different than what we were using in other regions of the company. So we thought we had adequately tested it, not only in beta, but in production before we started using them in Kansas City. And it was a very technical setup that caused this issue. Unfortunately, we didn't realize it was there.
Okay, I have no other questions. Is there any recross by staff?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Meyer, do you have any recross?
When did Spire know that this sort of error was possible?
I don't know what that question means.
You stated that this problem arose because Kansas City had a legacy billing system and you didn't realize that, correct?
They had a legacy configuration. It's the same billing system we use everywhere
Had a
else.
legacy configuration. When did you realize that the legacy configuration would create this problem with the PTZ connectors?
We discovered it when we were seeing the reads in our billing system in the spring of 22.
And, but it is, again, it's your testimony that Spire didn't realize that Kansas City had that legacy billing set up?
I don't, can you
They
restate?
had the legacy configuration.
They had a configuration that was different than what we used in other regions of the company for the same type of metering equipment.
And how long had Kansas City been using that configuration?
I have no idea, but for years.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Arias, do you have any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, just briefly, I'm gonna jump around here. Mr. Riskey, you mentioned that it's, the customer's meter is a Romet rotary meter, and that this was a new meter to Spire's system, correct?
So the PTZ electronic index was new to Spire system.
Was
The
it-
Romet rotary meter we have used for years.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you for that clarification. And we were discussing this legacy configuration. Why wasn't the legacy configuration discovered until spring of 2022?
So the configuration, Kansas City didn't use this type of equipment very often, right? And so they had done what I would call a technical change to the configuration. It wasn't apparent in the configuration. It was in the programming of the configuration that we didn't know existed until these reads from these new instruments started coming and we saw how it behaved. So it was a legacy configuration in programming, right? Computer code. So
And so the legacy configuration issue wasn't discovered because we just weren't using technology at that point, up to that point that it would affect.
that's 100% correct.
Thank you. And just looking at back to the BTUs necessary to heat 1,500 square feet. So is it your testimony, and would you agree that regardless of the size of furnace or number of BTUs your furnaces have, or you can regardless of the output of the furnaces you have, be total BTU output, even if you had 250,000 BTUs output or a million BTUs output, those furnaces are going to use the same amount of natural gas to heat the same size of space.
Yes, they're going to run as long as it takes to heat that space. That's correct.
Okay, so regardless of the size, those whether it's one furnace using X number of 1,000 CCFs to heat a specific size space, or 5 furnaces trying to heat that same size space to the same temperature, they're going to use the same amount of natural gas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let me just give a technical clarification.
Yeah, and that's
here.
fine.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
So generally speaking, that will be true. But how they operate and how much gas they use and how much they run can greatly be impacted by their ability to push the air into the volumes of the room. So depending on where the thermostat is, then how you heat the space can dramatically impact how much energy you use, because you have to run longer to get the air to where the thermostat's measuring the temperature, right? So there are actually some tricky things about how, that's why there's so much work that's done around the mechanical design of how to heat a space, because it can dramatically have a negative impact.
Okay, thank you. And just one more thing, just turning to Spire's Exhibit 102, that out of reach report. When you are saying the digit moves to the left, or how did you characterize it again?
Yes, I did say, so let me be very precise in how I say it. It's where it concatenates the number. And so it concatenated one digit to the left. So it dropped the first digit.
Okay, thank you. So if we're looking at December 10th, 2021, the issue in question would force or would make the raw read showing 171 to appear as 17 in the billing system. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Even though it should report in the billing system 171.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, at this time, staff, Spire has no further questions.
Very good. Mr. Irving, do you have any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Meyer?
No, Your Honor.
I have no further questions, so sir, you are dismissed.
Thank you.
Your Honor, just one housekeeping issue. I don't believe I moved Exhibit 103 into the record. I'd like to admit Spire Exhibit 103, which is complainants' responses to Spire's first set of data requests.
Mr. Irving, have you had an opportunity to examine Exhibit 103, and do you have any objections?
No objections, Your Honor.
Mr. Meyer,
No objection.
Exhibit 103 is received into evidence. Mr. Irving, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I would like to call Mr. Staff Witness, Mr. Cunningham, to the stand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes.
Proceed.
Morning, Mr. Cunningham.
Good morning.
Could you please state your full name for the record and spell your last name?
Cedric Cunningham, and Cunningham is spelled Cunnigan.
Okay, thank you. How long have you been employed by the commission?
Since 2017.
Okay. What is your job title?
Senior professional engineer.
Okay. You're the staff's expert witness on matters related to gas meters. Is that correct?
I provide testimony on that in this case, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I would like to tender the witness for cross-examination.
Mr. Arias?
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you just provide your last name one more time for me?
Cunnigan is Cunnigan.
So Cunnigan.
Cunnigan,
Thank-
yes.
Mr. Cunnigan, did you review Spire's meter test report?
Yes,
And I think that was staff exhibit 201, staff exhibit 201.
yes.
And did that meter test report find that the meter was operating within the standards required by the commission's rules?
Yes, the test results showed that the flow rates they expected were in the correct ranges.
Okay, thank you. No further questions from Spire. Thank you.
Mr. Meyer, do you have any questions?
Yes. Mr. Cunnigan, did you look at the meter at issue yourself?
I did not.
Okay. So you reviewed a report that was provided to you by Spire?
That is correct.
Okay. And do you have any knowledge or information about the volume of gas that was used by structural glass in the time frame in question?
Just the information that was provided in the course of this case.
Okay, so just the evidence that's come in today?
Through
been
data
provided.
requests and the informal complaint.
Okay. Do you have any through the course of this case, have you gained some information about the issue with the PTZ connectors and the SGS meter?
Yes.
What information have you gained about how that was installed and what the issue was?
The issue that I was made aware of was not related to the installation of it, but
Oh, okay.
more of the programming.
And what was that issue?
If you give me just a moment.
Certainly.
So on page 4 of the staff report, it's discussed there that the coding was entered as 06 instead of the 6U or 6C, and that would correspond to the chart that was previously entered. I don't have the exhibit in front of me.
Okay. But that would correspond to those numbers we saw earlier.
Yes, and from that, the digits that were entered into the billing system were off by 1.
All right. So that was a programming error by Spire.
Yes.
Are you aware of whether that error was repeated with any other customers of Spire's?
We have a data request that had a list of customers that suffered a similar error. I don't have the number off the top of my head.
Is it more than 10?
Yes.
Okay. And wow, strike that. No further questions to this witness.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. I'll turn to the commissioners then. Commissioner Coleman, do you have any questions for this witness?
No questions.
Okay, then I have some questions myself. First of all, in your investigation, did you note what gas consuming appliances there are at the service address, and do you know the maximum gas usage for those appliances?
I do not have that specific information in front of me. I believe it was provided at some point during the case, though.
Did you note whether whether the gas usage was consistent with the type of equipment that was on the premises?
And so I believe the last witness spoke to this as well, but gas usage is not just dependent on the type of equipment, but it would be dependent on the total volume that's being heated, circulation, and then one thing that wasn't brought up is losses. Depending on how well your building is insulated, how often the doors are open, it can vary widely depending on the kind of operations you're having in the different facilities.
Did you note the existence or shortage of air handling units in the building?
I did not actually visit this site.
Okay. Did staff recalculate the bills?
Yes, as Ms. Burnson can speak a little bit more on the actual recalculation.
Is staff aware of why the fix to this problem didn't occur until after April? Until after the April reading, if Spire found the problem in January?
The only thing I could say would be to repeat what the company said, that they didn't know the extent of it, but staff we don't have any additional information outside of what's been provided.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Do we have any recross by Spire?
Yes, Your Honor, hold on one second. Mr. Cunningham, how many complaint cases, I guess, how many meter reports have you reviewed in your time with the commission? Ballpark.
It's hard in the ballpark. I'd say less than 50.
Less than 50, but so is the meter report that you reviewed from Spire consistent with those other meter reports that you've reviewed?
It's similar. I do gas, water, and electric, so each one will have different things they're looking for.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arias. Mr. Meyer, do you have any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, with that, if there's no other questions, then I think we're done.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, could I redirect?
Mr. Irving, did I miss you? I apologize.
No, I just wanted him.
Could you please?
Yes.
Proceed, yeah.
Okay, I actually just have one question. You were asked before, did you look at the meters yourself? And you indicated that no, and that you relied on the information from Spire. Is this a typical procedure for staff to do that?
Yes, for most of our complaints, we don't actually have commission staff go out and view the meters or test the meters ourselves. We rely on the company experts to do that.
Thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you. Mr. Arias, you have anything else on top of that?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Meyer?
Nothing further.
Okay, then. Mr. Cunningham, you are excused. Mr. Irving, you have another witness?
Yes, Your Honor. At this point, I would like to call Miss Deborah Burnson. Sorry.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth?
I do.
Proceed. Excuse me, before we do proceed, I would like to congratulate you on your upcoming retirement and thank you for your years of service with the commission. Chairman Roop sent down a note to make sure that we mention that, and I second that, and thank you very much. So,
Thank you. This is my last time testifying.
very good. Mr. Irving, proceed.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Burnson, could you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes. Deborah Ann Burnson. Last name is Bernsen.
Okay. It was mentioned that you are in the process of retiring and this is your last testimony. How long have you been employed by the commission, if you don't mind me asking that?
Let's just say over 40 years.
Okay, all right. What is your job title?
My job title is Senior Research Data Analyst.
Okay. Are you the same Deborah Burnson that caused to be prepared testimony in staff's report?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you have any corrections to your staff report at this time?
No, I do not.
Okay. Is the information contained in your staff report true and correct to your best information and belief?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Your Honor, I would like to admit into the record Ms. Bernson's staff report, which is Exhibit 2000, or I'm sorry, 200 and Exhibit 200C.
200C?
Yes, one's public and 200 is public and Exhibit 200C is confidential.
Is there any objection to the admission of the staff report, staff's exhibit 200C?
No, Your Honor.
No
Okay.
objection from Spire.
Okay, so staff's exhibit 200C is received on the record, and C signifies that that is a confidential document. Please take note of that and treat that accordingly.
Okay. I would also like to submit exhibit 200 as well, which is staff report, which is the public staff report.
Are there any objections to the admission of staff exhibit 200, which is the public report?
No objection.
No objection.
Staff exhibit 200 is received into evidence.
Okay. At this time, I would like to tender the witness for cross-examination.
Mr. Arias?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Bernison? Bernson, congratulations. First, congratulations.
Thank you.
Are you familiar with the, in your experience, are you familiar with the commission's customer service rules?
Yes, I am.
And I think that's chapter 13, is that correct?
Chapter 13 applies to residential customers.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Do commission rules allow Spire to rebill customers for over and underbilled natural gas usage?
Commission rules do allow that, specifically the tariffs in this case for a large gas. This company is considered an LGS customer. And so there are specific tariffs that apply to that regarding rebilling
Okay,
customers.
and those are the Spire, Missouri's tariffs,
Those are,
and they are on file with the commission.
they are.
And are those tariffs approved by or are those tariffs reviewed by staff prior to commission approval?
Yes, they are, although I'm not the individual that reviews them.
Nope, that's okay. And leading into my next question, does the commission approve Spire, Missouri's tariffs?
Yes, they do.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if you officially said this, but do Spire, Missouri's tariffs in this case allow Spire to rebill customers for over or underbilled natural gas usage?
Yes, the rules, and I think they were noted earlier, but I can recite them if you wish, is specifically in terms of the rebilling, the ability to rebill if there's been a problem, or underbill or overbill, they can rebill. And that's under the rules and regulations, PSC, MO, number 9, sheet number R-8-R8.2. It addresses the ability to rebill.
Thank you. And turning to my next question, do commission rules require that Spire alert customer, actually, let me back that up. You have made a series of recommendations on how Spire can improve their customer contacts. Is that correct?
I did.
Do commission rules require Spire, Missouri to alert customers to issues necessitating a rebill ahead of the rebill date?
I don't believe that the tariff specifically addresses that.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Cunningham had noted that you had performed a rebill, a recalculation of the rebilling that the company performed. Is that correct?
I did look over the usage and wanted to be sure that they had used the correct rates in effect at the time. So I did run through those calculations, and they appeared to be using the correct tariff sheets.
And that's to calculate the amount. The Spire, Missouri used the correct tariff sheets to calculate the rebill for the natural gas usage. It is saying the customer used from the period of November 24th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022.
I checked those to make sure that the dollar amounts
The dollar amounts was right. Yes.
and that they were reflected accurately in the rebill.
And just one more time, the answer to that question is yes.
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions from Spire. Thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, I was out. Let me repeat that. Mr. Meyer, do you have any questions?
Pardon me, no questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. If there's no cross by structural glass systems, I'll turn to the commissioners. Chairman Rupp has not returned. Commissioner Coleman, are you still there? And do you have any questions for the witness?
No questions. Only I offer my congratulations on 40+ years of service. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have no questions myself. So I'll turn to Mr. Irving. Do you have any questions, Mr. Irving?
Yes. Ms. Aries asked you about staff's recommendations in this report, correct?
Yes, he did.
Okay. What would staff like the commission to take? What, if any, action would staff like the commission to take on these recommendations?
Staff made these recommendations to encourage the company to see if it can further improve its practices when these kinds of things occur. They did follow the rules on what they were to do, but we think these kind of situations can bring forth, maybe we need to look at this again and see if we can do some improvement in trying to help the customer understand. There was a lot of contact between the customer and the company, and this is, it is a difficult thing to understand. I think they attempted very well to explain it. But I think we can look at these things afterwards and say, could we have done things a little differently? And so that is the purpose of our recommendations. And in order for that to actually happen, we are asking that the commission request the company to actually look at making some improvements to that process. If it were to happen again, you'd be prepared. And also to report to staff or in the filing or whatever method they deem appropriate, what your actions were and what the results were.
Thank you. I have no other questions at this point.
Mr. Arias, do you have any questions?
No other questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Meyer?
No other questions.
Well, then that is the end of our witnesses, and that's I guess now we need to make sure that all of our exhibits have been entered. Mr. Meyer, I have it that you submitted and the commission received exhibits 1 through 17. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Arias, I have that Spire submitted exhibits 101, 102, and 103, and those were received on the record. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Irving, I have that staff has submitted and exhibits 200, 200C, and 201, and those were admitted. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
That is correct.
Good. There won't be any late filings then. And are there any other matters that need to be addressed before we adjourn?
None from complainant, Your Honor.
Just briefly, I guess, just for scheduling purposes, are we filing briefs? Is that still the,
Yeah, we
have it, it's on the schedule, I think, but I
it
just
is
wanted
on
to
the schedule
confirm.
for June 7th.
June 7th, okay, and we can expect the transcripts within, is it 10 days, is that correct?
I think 10 days is a reasonable estimate.
Okay, great. No, thank you.
So the transcript should be filed on or about May 20th, 2023. The proposed procedural schedule filed by the parties indicates an agreement to limit briefing to a single round. So we'll file simultaneous briefs due by June 7th without reply briefs. Any questions or comments?
None from Spire. Thank you, Your Honor.
Hearing none?
No.
This hearing is adjourned.